Hey, what's up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Got my sweet house here in the background with my virtual background. We're excited to have another podcast episode with you. Today, we're talking about drones, or what they're officially called is UAS, Unmanned Aerial Systems. We'll talk about the FAA Part 107 exam, but really we want to hammer how drones are being used in our industry, in the civil engineering world. I personally am a pilot, commercial pilot that's gone through the exam experience. I've personally headed up a group of people to also fly drones and how we're using them in the utility world. But I also bring my brother Mark on as we talk about drone usage in the construction industry and how they are using it as well. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas on how drones are being used in this industry, and it's going to be a good time. So without further ado, we'll be up in just a minute. Hey, before we start diving into this awesome podcast episode with lots of nuggets of awesome wisdom that we're going to help you with, I want to take a moment to highlight our awesome partner, Civil Engineer Gear. As a civil engineer myself, this is hands down the go-to destination for sleek and professional looking day-to-day gear with a civil engineering flair. You can bet that it's mine for sure. So whether you're on the job site, the job office, you're burning the midnight oil studying for your exams, or you're just chilling at home on the weekends, which many of us do, there is civil engineering inspired products there that combine functionality and professionalism to be your companion, your best companion during those days you want to check out. I definitely love the comfortable t-shirts and sweatshirts. I'm wearing one right now. I don't start my day without a awesome drink, one of my favorite drinks in their awesome canteens. We also have awesome mugs, and don't even get me started on the spacious bags that they have there. They're big enough for all of my personal protective equipment, my PPE, shove it all in there, carry it with me. And it's not so big that you can't carry it around. It's actually a perfect fit. You can use it for your gym clothes. You can use it for your camping gear, yoga, whatever it is, you name it, throw it in the bag. Now, the best part of all this is that shipping is free on all orders. So if you are interested in getting some sweet civil engineering gear, check it out at civilengineergear.com, and make sure to treat yourself with some awesome gear and accessories tailored specifically to your professional and personal life as a civil engineer. Go check it out. You won't be disappointed. All right, Mark, we're live and running.
Hey,
what's going on?
Isaac, it's good to be with you again.
I talked about earlier, you got the office all mixed up over there.
Yeah, you like this? Got it switched around, so a little bit of a different background view. I don't have as cool a house as you do, though.
Yeah, we just moved into the new one here.
Yeah, looks fancy. Looks good.
Eventually, folks, we're moving, so we're trying to figure out a space. So we'll get there.
You got some logistics to deal with, don't you?
But we'll keep pumping out the content, so I hope you enjoy that. The machine keeps going.
That's right.
Well, this is going to be a good one. I have found myself in my own workplace diving into drones and drone usage. I have a drone. We use Skydio X2 drones, which have kind of niched themselves into this enterprise arena, working for large companies. There's a ton of other drone companies out there. Obviously, DJI is a big one, but I know from my own personal experience, a lot of companies, US-based companies, are trying to steer away from the use of anything with parts from China, although DJI does make a better drone. But that's kind of where I'm at. And so I want to chat about drone usage really in your industry, but I'll also talk about how we use it in the utility world too. So I guess that's my background. Mark, what's your background with drone usage?
Of course, my background is on the construction side of things, and we use drones a lot. They've really kind of developed into a very useful tool, not only for some of the initial design that we have to do for our design assist type contracts, but also during the course of construction, they've become very useful tools because we can, fly a project every day. We fly a project and document progress, and it's almost an invaluable tool in just the documentation process that's involved with executing a project. So, yeah, just it's something that's it's a very useful piece of technology that's developed. I'd say it's just come on in the last, I don't know. It's been progressive, but probably in the last 5 years, it's really kind of taken off, I would say.
Yeah, and I know in the utility world, depending on the utility, but they're really investing into new technologies. Obviously, drones kind of falls in that category, and how we use those, but we use them a lot for visual inspections. It's much easier to get a drone up, 150 feet to go inspect, say, a transmission structure than it is to get a crew, get a bucket truck, get someone in the truck, go up, do visual inspections on stuff, or drive around with binoculars and try to look at stuff that you could get a drone right in there and check stuff out. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious on the construction side, are you using it to just kind of do overall plan-based updates, or when things are starting to rise up, do you use a drone to fly in close to anything? How are you?
So you asking about like the initial design phase, or like when we're into construction?
I guess any of those phases.
So I'll start with kind of the design phase. So we're doing a job here in the Salt Lake City market that we're helping with, kind of a design assist, kind of a contract. And one of the things that we used our drone for right out of the box was creating a topographical map of the area that we were getting into. So there was the footprint of this structure that we were building is about 100,000 square feet. So it took up a substantial amount of area. And we were trying to optimize when we're designing structures, and we try to obviously balance the site, right? We don't want to get too much excavation, excess, we call it export material that we got to take off the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
That costs a lot of money when we have to haul excavated material off the job. It starts driving costs up. So we try to look at the site overall, and then based on the footprint and how deep our structure is going to be below ground, we try to optimize like the positioning of the structure to optimize the excavation, right? And obviously we have to keep within lines that the owner is demanding. If he wants his, structure closer to maybe an amenity, if we're, maybe, and I'll just say this job that I'm talking about is a resort, a ski resort. And so the owner wanted this facility that we were helping him design closer to one of the ski lifts. Well, that's obviously one of the things we have to take into consideration when we're figuring out the exact location of our structure. But having that drone go up in the air, and we don't have the really expensive ones that can actually be equipped with LiDAR, right? So they could actually create kind of a point cloud and a really detailed topographical map of an area. We didn't go to that extent. All of our LiDARs just use photogrammetry, right? So they're just using basically digital photos as kind of their basis. Once we give them a datum point and a reference elevation, they can use basically the photo technology to map the highs and the lows of the area that we're working with, and we can optimize, the excavation, right, and minimize that export material, because we can figure really close on the cubic yardage that we're working with for a given structure. So right out of the gate, we're not necessarily the design team, meaning we're not part of the architect and structural engineering firms, right, that are doing the design, but we can help lend expertise in positioning our structure and optimizing that so that the owner's costs are minimized on the excavation. So it's kind of a cool tool in the design phase to be used like that.
What drones are you guys rolling with? Do you know?
We got the DJIs, and so
Okay.
some of the newer ones, like we had the older school ones that you'd actually mount an iPad or even your cell phone, right? There was a little mount, and it had a double 2-axis, 2 little joystick like controllers, right? And it was more of a manual. Those older ones had I think, they had sensors that sensed elevation, so you wouldn't necessarily drive it into the ground and crash it. They had some sensors that sensed things laterally, so it helped you avoid obstacles. But it was really more of a rough um, manual control, I would call it. The new
Yeah.
ones that we've got now is just a single joystick, and we got the VR goggles that go on with them, and it's just a single joystick. So it's kind of intuitive. You just push it forward to make them go forward. It's got an up and down button to get the elevation up and down. And then as far as the controls, it's got better protection around the blades on the little rotors, the little propellers that are on there. So we actually use it to fly inside of structures now because there's very good the sensors for lateral and elevation control are a lot better. And so the risk of running into things is a lot less, even when you've got maybe a little less experienced operator. I got some guys that are pretty good at it now, but but that joystick control seems to be really intuitive, and they just have to hold it out in the air. Like I walk into job sites, into job trailers, and I'll see my project engineers sitting at their desks with their VR goggles on, you know, and it looks like they're playing video games, but they've got their joystick out and they're flying the job remotely, and so you go outside and the drone's 50, 250 feet up in the air, and he's documenting the job, but he's doing it all within the job trailer. It's kind of fun.
Funny. Well, we use the Skydio drones. They have really, really good obstacle avoidance on there, almost too good. But all of ours are just, we don't have any VR sets. You have to have someone that's a visual inspector usually and fly these things around. But yeah, if you play video games, you set the mode the right way and you're off to the races. I remember when I was going through training to get this, most pilots use what's called mode 2, which in my mind is kind of flipped on how it should be because I'm so used to playing, like, let's say Halo or a first person shooter. And so I switched it to a mode 3 and I could immediately get that drone flying around really well. So yeah, they're fun to kind of operate. But
Yeah.
well, it sounds like you're using these in a variety of ways. I'm hearing you're using it for planning, you're hearing it for inspection and monitoring, you're using it for progress tracking.
Yeah. So as I talk about the stuff we do pre-construction where we're in the design phase, once construction starts, it's really nice to use as a tool to monitor progress, right? So when we're in the design or construction phase, we're always having to track everything against our baseline schedule, right? We establish a baseline schedule that's that we're contractually obligated to adhere to. And so to document our progress, man, a drone is it's awesome. Plus, we also use it because we can go fly around, right? We can take actual pictures of progress from day to day. And as we go into our OAC meetings, our owner and architect and contractor meetings, we can pull up, on our big screens in our conference rooms exactly where the progress is, and we can contrast that against exact tasks on our scheduling. And then we can tell them where we are. We're either ahead of schedule, behind schedule. They can get a really good feel. It's just sometimes it depends how sophisticated the owner is, but sometimes it's tough as a contractor, as a general contractor, to communicate, I don't know, construction concepts and different things. But with the drone, you can be talking about a concept or a particular sequence, or maybe there's a logistical issue you're dealing with, and you can kind of put it up on a screen like real time, like the day of the meeting, and show exactly to an owner what you're up against, what you're dealing with. And sometimes that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing because it can also call out maybe some of the mistakes that you've made as a general contractor, right? Maybe you've tripped over yourself somewhere, you've fallen down somewhere, and there it is in glaring, it's obvious there up on the screen what's going on. But on the other hand, it can also be
There's Bob who doesn't have a safety gear on.
yeah, you don't want to do that stuff. But it also works in the other way where we can like make it obvious to an owner, listen, this was an unforeseen condition. This is something that we're trying to deal with. It's impacting the schedule. You've got to allow for maybe a little bit more time. And then that understanding is better, I guess, arrived at with those kind of things. But yeah, it's cool to have those pictures of the project kind of real time as the construction moves along. And then the other thing we do is we use it for our what's called pull planning. It's part of in the industry what they call lean construction methods. We do these pull planning sessions where we get all our subcontractors in a room and we have our schedule, and we can put that up and say, okay, guys, this is where we are on the schedule. And then we use the old school way. They used sticky notes, and we put them on the wall, and we get every subcontractor that reports to us, we get them to commit to certain timelines to make sure that everybody's falling in line and things are progressing as scheduled. And what the drone does is it gives us a good visual on what exactly is going on, especially when it's just raw structure that's going in. If it's an enclosed area and maybe some of the finished trades are working through an area, it's tough to do it with a drone. But when just the raw structure is going up, you can use that drone footage in your pull planning sessions to show progress for a subcontractor that's carrying a certain part of the project as part of his contract. You can help hold him or her accountable for their progress too. So not only is it a good way to for us to explain to the owner where we're at, but as we move down the line in our contractual responsibilities, it helps us keep all of our subcontractors accountable, right? So if they're committing in their pull planning session to get a certain task done in a week, let's say, and our meeting is the next week, we can pull up the drone footage and show them exactly how they were progressing and identify where they're having the problems. There may be maybe there was a certain day where the equipment that they were expecting wasn't delivered on time, or maybe, whatever the reason is. Sometimes that drone footage can help us ferret out the problem and hold our subcontractors accountable for the time frame that they promised to get things done in. So it works that way too.
Could you address, and I know we're focusing heavily on your industry, and that's fine, because I know some other people out there heavily involved in the utility world, and I could touch base with them, and
maybe we need to. I'm hogging all the airtime. You need to talk.
That's good. I would like to know how difficult it was for you to stand up a drone program, or why, what was the start of that idea? Did you notice it in the industry? And then how did you get pilots trained? What are you doing for your drone program in general?
So our drone program is most of the weight, I guess, for executing that rests on my project engineers. So these are the guys that they're mostly I'll call they're construction management kind of guys. They've usually have degrees in construction management. I have some that are construction engineer kind of guys, and I need a contingency of those because I do have construction engineering that has to happen. But some of my guys are construction management guys, and those are the guys that carry the weight for my drone program. And it's not, I don't know if I could say that it's formalized much more than what we did is, as we were executing projects, and we knew that this drone technology was available, but and it's why I harken back to this 5-year period that I think things have developed. That's kind of the timeline for me. Is we were moving along, managing projects like we've always done, but just our documentation for our progress was being done, on the ground. Just traditional guy standing on the ground, pointing his camera up, pointing his camera down if he was up on a higher level. Just kind of those on the ground type perspective views of our documentation, our photo documentation. And we knew these drones were getting more and more, I don't know, they were getting cheaper and cheaper. They, when they first came out, they were pretty expensive, even just a basic unit. But as they got cheaper and cheaper, we just, hey, let's buy one of these things and let's just start playing with it. So I had a couple of project engineers that were a little more tech savvy than maybe some of the other guys. And so I charged them with kind of taking the lead on it, and they were excited about it. It was something that they were excited to learn about. And I just had them dive into it full on. And I said, okay, you guys are our lead guys. I want you to figure out everything about this. What's the best, drone to get for the construction industry? What are other people using? What are the apps that are out there? How can we implement this to better our project management workflows? And they came up with all kinds of cool stuff. And there's a million apps out there that just back when we started, there weren't that many, but now there's a ton that, and again, most of them are photogrammetry, right? It's not, the LiDAR stuff is still pretty expensive, and I got to believe it'll get cheaper and cheaper the more the prevalent the technology gets. But using photogrammetry, they figured out that, we could do everything from survey to, monitoring like daily progress on our production to just, we could do all of our QA QC stuff. Like if we wanted to get all the way into the LiDAR stuff, which we weren't ready to do yet, and we're still not there yet. We could actually do all of our QA and QC stuff, our quality control, by creating point clouds of our existing structures and seeing how they measure against contract drawings, and contract control. And so the way I started that is I picked out the two guys that were the most into it, and I had them dive into it, and then I had them train all of us, everybody else. And
trainer.
Yeah. So once I had these two project engineers, they were excited about it. They were all into it. They got up to speed. Then I had them train everybody else. And now that's just what we do, right? We got a job. We have to document progress. There's a drone on the job, and that's how we document progress. That's how we hold our subs accountable in our pull planning sessions. That's how we approach the owner when we're documenting our progress with the owner. And it's working out good that way.
Tool now in your tool.
And it's an indispensable tool now for us. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I think most companies, they crawl, run, walk, or crawl, walk, run, whatever.
Yeah.
I do the other way.
Yeah.
So with every drone program, and utilities are in the same boat, you're buying these and trying to find out what the best use for them. And as you grow into that role, you kind of discover what your drone program is and how that fits into what industry that you're in. I will say, as more and more people get drones, it does start to become its own animal a little bit. I know when you first start a drone program, it's a lot of just individual ownership, but eventually, you're keeping track of who has a license, who doesn't have a license, who needs to renew, who has did we get our FAA license for each drone, and then those have to be renewed. It ends up being kind of a big deal to stay on top of.
Oh,
when you
yeah.
start getting a bunch of these things.
It is.
We trained 25 pilots, and that's just an R utility, and there's others that probably have way more than that, but it just takes effort to keep track of all that, make sure people are doing it. There's software updates to your drone. They did that? Hardware, making sure people have enough batteries and all that jazz.
One thing I tried to do too is make the drone that I bought, just particular to the project engineer that was running that drone, and that's his piece of equipment, right? I wanted to create a sense of ownership so that was his tool that he was using. And so I make all my project engineers that drone that they're assigned to, that follows them from project to project. I want it to be their baby. I think that helps too.
Yeah. So there's just a lot there when you start talking about a drone program, how you implement that, the rules, staying on top of rules. What if they crash the thing? How does that work? All that jazz. And making sure you understand the FAA rules. In order to get your license to fly commercially, you do have to pass an exam. It's called the Part 107 FAA exam.
Yeah.
It's a 60-question exam you got to study for, prepare for. They test you on everything from regulations to loading on a structure, on your aircraft, to nighttime flights and everything, safety, everything in between. Reading charts, those are kind of difficult a little bit when you're looking at these old school FAA flight charts, but they all help you become a better pilot and understanding where you can fly, where you can't fly, things of that nature. I would just say, if anyone's interested in learning to become a pilot, you can shoot me an email and I can help you go through that or understand what I went through when I did that. But it's an interesting process. I would say it's not like the FE or PE exam by any means, but it is an exam you got to prepare for. So you got to put in a little bit of effort to understand what you're doing. And it might feel like you're doing something totally unrelated to your industry. Like this is all pilot stuff. And when you get your license, it's like a pilot's license. It looks just like the real deal. So, anyway,
I try to get all my guys licensed, of course. And I have had a couple that have been retakers that didn't do it the first time. And it was because they just didn't take it as serious as they should have, maybe as serious as a college exam. But I haven't personally taken it, Isaac, but how would you rate it in difficulty? It's not as difficult as an FE or a PE test, but
it's definitely not in that same realm, but you do need to put forth some effort. And there are lots of great YouTube videos. And if you sat down for, I would say, half a day or even 8 hours, let's say a work day, and you went through that and you understood exactly what they're asking you, you probably need a little more time. When I took it, my work encouraged taking a class. It was a week-long class, though. And I went through just a ton of material. So it's not, I would say it's not a walk in the park, but it's also not something you can't, that you can do by yourself. If you have the interest to do it, you could probably find your own material on YouTube, probably take a day or two and study hard for it, and then just go take it. But you need to get a 70% on the exam to pass. You will find out your score immediately. You don't have to wait around. And then they changed the rules. You used to be able to take it, I think, pretty close to when you took the exam, but now you have to wait. I think it's 14 days before you can take it again. So you do have to wait some time before you go take it. But I think it's an exciting time to use these kind of tools. And like I said, I'm using the Skydio drones. They're kind of they're really high tech on AI and using them for obstacle avoidance. That's kind of their mojo, but their visual stuff is definitely pretty good. My only complaint with them is how far you can fly them, because they use these Wi-Fi remotes, And I've compared them with the DJI. DJI, you can fly those things like 3 miles before it loses a signal.
Oh yeah,
These ones like 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet. So it's kind of you got to use it where you're at kind of thing. But anyway, it's not a walk in the park, but you gotta put some effort and some time into studying. And if your work wants you to have that, then they'll probably provide you an avenue to do that. There's so many places that teach this stuff. I mean, if you just look online, they'll all pop up. But got to pass that Part 107 exam. Once you get that, you'll get your license, and you're off to the races shooting imagery for real estate.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, Mark, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Appreciate your time jumping on, talking about how drones are used in the construction industry. I might do a follow-up episode. I've got some people I know personally that I could bring on, talk about that's used in utility and even other industries, mining and other industries. So that might be of interest to folks.
Yeah. And if we ever wanted to drill down and get more specific, we could. This drone, this tool is just, it's so versatile, man. And I feel like we've only kind of scratched the surface as well on what we can use. I mean, we haven't even talked about, we use it for promotional purposes as well, right? After we're done with the job. Yeah. Some of that drone footage is just, it's awesome, right? Especially on our taller buildings that we're building. And it makes it more impressive when we've got those sweeping panoramic views of a project. And we've used that footage for promotional material too. After we're done, it's kind of a natural product of, you're done with a project and you have all this footage that you can pick from to put on your websites. And I've used tons of drone footage and pictures for magazine articles and all kinds of stuff. So there's a whole advertisement angle to this thing that we could talk about too. That's cool.
And virtually there's so many industries that these are used in too. I was thinking about Skydio's promotional material, and you have emergency responders using this, you have the police force using it. They don't have to send a guy to go investigate something. They can send a drone out, operate it a distance away, and find out what the deal is, or find out where a suspect or perpetrator is. There's just so many uses for this stuff. So
yeah.
Anyway, we'll maybe to be continued on some future stuff about it.
I think so. I think
Mark, thanks for joining today. Talking about drones.
Okay,
we'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye. Hey, I wanted to jump on real quick and let you know about a free resource we developed for you. You can find it at civilengineeringacademy.com/PE guide, and this will help you to jumpstart your studies for your PE exam. So if you're in the hunt and you're just thinking about the PE exam, this guide will help you get through the process of figuring out everything you need to do, from the PE exam's prerequisites that you got to figure out, the must-have materials that you're going to need for the exam, any approved calculators, what groups you should join, exam secrets, and much more. It's all in this guide that we've got developed for you. It's completely free. You can go check it out at civilengineeringacademy.com/PE guide. Just put in your email. We'll get you that information as soon as the email comes to your inbox. So go check it out, civilengineeringacademy.com/PE guide.